Welcome to KCS Quarterly Safety News, a video for KCS by KCS about KCS safety. At KCS, we hear it a lot. Safety is our #1 priority. But do our actions reflect our words? Does safety start with you? Consistent with the KCS safety value, we all must demonstrate a commitment to safety for ourselves, our fellow employees, our customers, contractors, and any other guests on our property. We've made it to episode 11. Can you believe it? This episode will continue our discussion about cardinal rules. Remember those? A cardinal rule is a rule that is so important that if broken, there are potentially dire consequences. A potential consequence could be a serious or fatal injury, a derailment, or an equipment collision. When you follow the KCS cardinal rules, these consequences are avoidable. There are a bunch of rules we're going to cover in this episode, but to quickly summarize, for transportation and mechanical, we'll be talking about switch and derail operations. And for engineering, it's all about operating on-track equipment. Transportation and mechanical folks, you're up first. Your cardinal rules for this episode are GS34 switch and derail operation, G-Core 8.2 position of switches, G-Core 8.8 switches equipped with locks, hooks, or latches, and G-Core 8.20 derail location and position. Being able to properly operate switches and derails is an important part of your job. That's why we covered this topic so extensively. Before making any moves, first check to make sure that there is no obstruction that will interfere with operating a switch or switch point derail. Then, if necessary, remove the obstruction from between the switch point and the stock rail with a broom, stick, or similar tool. Hands and feet must not be used to clear an obstruction. Keep your body clear of the switch handle motion. Remember, if you are operating a switch or derail, you are responsible for its position when in use. You must make sure that the switches and derails are properly lined for the intended route. The points fit properly, and the target corresponds with the switch's position. When the operating lever is equipped with a latch, they do not step on the latch to release the lever except when operating the switch. After locking a switch or derail, test the lock to ensure it's secured. The switch is not operated while equipment is fouling, standing on, or moving over the switch. And that when equipment has entered a track, the switch to that track is not lined away until the equipment has passed the clearance point of the track. When possible, crew members on the engine must see that the switches and derails near the engine are properly lined. When switches are not in use, they must be locked, hooked, or latched if equipped. Before making movements in either direction over switches, make sure the switch is latched and secured by placing the lock or hook in the hasp. However, when making train movements in facing point direction, lock the switches equipped with a lock. Always replace defective or missing locks. Report the condition at once to the train dispatcher, yardmaster, or supervisor in charge. Those of you working in a train, engine, or service yard, listen up. You must know the location of all fixed derails. A train or engine moving on or entering tracks where fixed derails are located must stop at least 100 feet from derail in derailing position. Movement must not continue until the derail is placed in the non-derailing position. However, the distance restriction will not apply in engine servicing areas. When operating switches and derails in sidings with hand-thrown derails, always lock the derails in non-derailing position, except when engines or cars are left unattended on sidings. And when operating on auxiliary tracks other than sidings, always keep the derails in derailing position regardless of whether cars are on the track that is being protected. One final note before we wrap up switches and derails. Derails may be used in conjunction with other rules, such as Rule 5.12, protection of occupied outfit cars, and Rule 5.13, blue signal protection of workmen. In these situations, the derail must be in the derailing position only when their use is required for such protection. When their use is not required for protection, remove portable derails or lock fixed derails in non-derailing position with an effective locking device. Now, if you work in the engineering department, listen up. This episode will cover cardinal rules focusing on operating on-track equipment. These on-track safety RWP rules are: Rule 26.4, spacing between roadway maintenance machines to prevent collisions. Rule 26.6, maximum working and travel speeds for roadway maintenance machines dependent on weather, visibility, and stopping capabilities. Rule 30.2.3, movement of on-track equipment. And Rule 30.2.5, passing over road crossing at grade with high rail vehicles and on-track equipment. Operators of roadway maintenance machines, or RMM, must maintain a minimum 30-foot spacing between standing or working machines. There may be situations where you need to increase the distance between RMMs. Increase the minimum distance when working on grades or curves where sight distance is limited, the rail is wet, icy, or oily, or when tampers and regulators are working to a minimum of 80 feet. On the contrary, there may be times when the 30-foot minimum may be reduced. These situations are to be used only when required, and the operators are assured that there are no roadway workers between the machines. In addition to spacing, you must also know required speeds for on-track equipment on RMM. There are two types of speed requirements for roadway maintenance machines. 1. Working speed, and 2. Traveling speed. The working speed tells you how fast an RMM will move down the track while it's performing the job it was assigned to do. Working speeds are established during the job briefing, and the following factors must be considered when determining the speed. Are roadway workers required to be on the track in the area? What is the operator's visibility? How far is the longest braking distance of roadway maintenance machines involved? What is the roadway maintenance machine speed required to do the job? Are there any physical characteristics such as grade, curves, interlockings? And what's the weather like? Is there fog, rain, snow, ice? The traveling speed tells you how fast the machine can move when traveling from one location to another. During this movement, the machine is not performing the functions it was designed to do. It is moving from point A to point B. Traveling speeds are determined by the listed speeds for each machine. You can find this information in Rule 30.2.7, operational speeds for track cars, large trucks, and on-track equipment. Before occupying and making movements on controlled track, you must obtain proper authority. This means you must operate the OTE according to Track Occupancy Authority, and you must comply with interlocking rules. When approaching trains or other OTE on the same or adjacent tracks, you must be prepared to stop within 1/2 range of vision. And when approaching and passing over road crossings, you must move in such a way as to avoid accidents or collisions. Remain in complete control of the equipment at all times. Be prepared to stop, always yielding right-of-way to vehicular traffic. And use a flagger to provide protection against vehicular traffic when necessary. To protect yourself and others, you need to make sure you are strictly following all rules, but especially these cardinal rules. Doing so will help avoid any potential incidents. Remember, these rules were chosen to be KCS cardinal rules because they have the most dire consequences if not properly followed all the time. While each department has their own specific cardinal rules, It takes compliance from all KCS employees to keep us all safe. Commit these rules to memory and speak up if you see someone struggling. You owe it to your coworkers and their families. Thanks for your attention today and every day. As you head back to the yard, into your shop, or out on the track, remember to follow all the KCS cardinal rules. And always communicate with your team. Speak up and take care of each other. Do that, and we'll see you back here next quarter.